In the sun-baked heart of Brazil, where the air itself seems to cling to the skin and the very ground begs for the release of a cooling rain, there exists a profound, unspoken covenant between life and water. It is the most elemental of truths, the first lesson whispered by every parched throat, every wilting leaf, every exhausted muscle. Water is not merely a drink, it is the very currency of existence, a universal language spoken by every cell, a silent promise of survival. But what happens when a man chooses to break that covenant? What happens when a human being, against every whisper of instinct, every scream of biology, decides that this fundamental truth simply does not apply to him? This is not a story of a desert wanderer forced to ration the precious few drops. This is not a tale of drought or deprivation. This is the story of Roberto Pedreira, an ordinary man in an ordinary land, who, for more than half a century, has chosen to live in defiance of the most basic human need. He has lived, inexplicably, profoundly, without water, over 50 years. Think of the sunrises he has witnessed, the meals he has shared, the laughter he has offered, the tears he has shed, all without a single drop of water touching his lips. For Roberto, the aversion began subtly, perhaps, then hardened into an unyielding conviction as he crossed the threshold of adulthood. At 18, an age when the world opens up, when identity solidifies, Roberto made a choice so peculiar, so radical, that it would define the very essence of his being. He claims, with a quiet certainty that chills more than it convinces, that he simply hates the taste of water. This isn't a fleeting preference, a childish dislike for a particular vegetable. This is a visceral, fundamental repulsion to the purest, most vital liquid on earth. Imagine it, the crisp clarity of a glass, the cool promise of refreshment. For Roberto, it was a mockery, an insipid insult to his palate. Perhaps it was a metallic tang, a flat, lifeless assault on his senses. Or maybe, deeper still, it was the sheer neutrality, the lack of stimulation, the absence of the vibrant, aggressive notes he craved. What does it mean to hate something so utterly benign, so essential? It suggests a deeper rebellion, a psychological architecture built on an unshakable singularity of desire. And so, into the void left by water, a new deity ascended, a shimmering, effervescent, sugary god in a bottle, Coca-Cola. For a young Roberto, it must have been a revelation. The sharp, sweet bite that cut through the Brazilian humidity, the comforting, almost narcotic buzz of sugar and caffeine, the persistent fizz that tickled the back of his throat. It was not just a drink, it was an experience, a statement, a chosen identity. While others reached for the tap, Roberto reached for the crimson label, a quiet declaration of his unique, almost perverse sovereignty over his own body. For decades, the world outside Roberto's unique metabolic landscape continued its ceaseless churn. Nations rose and fell, technologies transformed daily life, generations passed into history. But Roberto remained, a constant, liquid monument to his own unwavering will. Every morning, the familiar crack of a bottle cap, the rush of carbonation, the first sweet gulp, every meal, every moment of thirst, every quiet contemplation, punctuated by the distinctive taste of cola. It wasn't an occasional treat. It was the very fuel of his existence, the lifeblood flowing through his veins, a saccharine substitute for the clear, unyielding truth of water. His family, his friends, what must they have thought? Did they plead? Did they argue? Did they simply grow weary, eventually resigning themselves to this strange, unalterable facet of Roberto's character? Perhaps in the early years, there were interventions, desperate attempts to break this peculiar habit. But as the years stacked into decades, as Roberto's steadfastness proved stronger than any logical argument, the world around him likely adapted, normalized this profound abnormality. It became simply Roberto, the man who doesn't drink water, the man sustained by a global phenomenon, a dark, sugary miracle. But the body keeps its own counsel. It tolerates, it adapts, it struggles, but eventually it sends its signals. Whispers at first, then insistent murmurs, and finally a guttural scream. For Roberto, that scream came in the form of a diagnosis that, for many, would signal a radical shift in lifestyle, a dire warning to reform. Diabetes, A cruel irony, perhaps, that the very substance he lived on was now actively poisoning him. This was a crossroads, a moment where the unshakable edifice of his chosen lifestyle might have crumbled. The doctors, surely, laid out the stark realities, the unforgiving consequences of his dietary choices. They spoke of blood sugar, insulin, the slow, insidious decay of vital organs. They spoke, undoubtedly, of water, the clean, pure water that could help flush the toxins, regulate the systems, offer a chance at moderation, at healing. Roberto listened. He absorbed the warnings. He understood the gravity. And then, with a decision that perfectly encapsulated the unwavering defiance of his spirit, he made a compromise, not with the doctors, not with the natural laws of his own body, but with his addiction. He switched to Coke Zero. It was a masterful act of self-preservation, warped through the lens of profound addiction. It wasn't surrender, it was a tactical retreat, a brilliant maneuver to maintain the core of his identity while assuaging, however minimally, the immediate medical crisis. The taste, the fizz, the familiar ritual, all remained, albeit with the chemical complexity of artificial sweeteners. He had found a loophole, a way to continue his profound rejection of water while appearing, to himself perhaps, to be making a concession to health. It was a testament to the terrifying strength of human will, even when directed towards a path of quiet self-destruction. The years that followed were a precarious dance, a tightrope walk over the precipice of his own physiology. Diabetes, once diagnosed, is a demanding master. It reshapes the body, dulls the senses, accelerates the inevitable decay. Yet, through it all, Roberto persisted. Each day, another bottle. Each week, another case. The constant presence of the dark liquid, a silent testament to his singular defiance. Then came the pandemic, a global cataclysm that brought the world to its knees, exposing the fragility of life, the vulnerability of every breath. For Roberto, like millions, it became a terrifying reality, a battle for survival waged in the sterile, unforgiving confines of a hospital room. COVID-19, a disease that ravages the lungs, inflames the body, and desperately cries out for hydration, for gentle care, for strict adherence to medical protocols. Lying in that bed, frail, perhaps gasping for air, his body racked by fever and the insidious grip of the virus, Roberto was confronted with the ultimate test. Nurses, exhausted and overburdened, moved with grim efficiency, administering medications, monitoring vital signs, offering comfort, and, of course, offering water. The simple, life-giving elixir, essential for swallowing pills, for cooling a fevered brow, for the very act of recovery. But even then, in the face of death, Roberto's conviction held firm. He refused. He pushed away the glasses of water, the small plastic cups. The very thought, he claimed, was repugnant. Imagine the scene. A man fighting for his life, dependent on the very people trying to heal him, yet utterly unwilling to bend on this one, peculiar and utterly critical point. No water, he must have rasped, his voice raw, his eyes perhaps gleaming with a mixture of fear and stubbornness. Only Coke. The nurses, accustomed to the absurdities and tragedies of the human condition, must have exchanged glances of disbelief, of exasperation. How do you reason with a man whose deepest aversion is stronger than his will to live? How do you force a patient, however desperate their need, to accept something they perceive as poison? They tried, undoubtedly. They explained the importance of water for medication absorption, for kidney function, for simple rehydration. But Roberto was unyielding. The metallic tang, the perceived foulness of water, was a more immediate, more visceral threat to his ingrained identity than the insidious virus attacking his lungs. For him, the aversion was not merely a preference, it was a deeply ingrained, almost pathological response. To drink water would be to betray himself, to surrender to an external force that had no understanding of his inner world. And so, with a mixture of frustration, professional duty, and perhaps a touch of bewildered respect for the sheer force of his conviction, the nurses complied. Medicine, bitter and chalky, meant to be washed down by pure, clean water, was instead served with a cold, carbonated gulp of Coke Zero. Each pill, each dose, a small, dark ritual, performed in the shadow of the pandemic, a testament to Roberto's refusal to yield, even when his very existence hung by a thread. The fizz, the artificial sweetness, masked the bitter reality of his predicament, a temporary illusion of normalcy in a time of profound crisis. He survived. He emerged from the hospital, scarred by the experience, his body further weakened, but his resolve unbroken. The heart problems, the diabetes, the lingering effects of the virus, they are all, to him, mere footnotes, consequences that he will navigate on his own terms. The one truth that remains immutable, unyielding, is his absolute rejection of water. Today, Roberto Pedreira lives with the ongoing reality of his choices. His heart, forced to pump blood thickened by decades of artificial sweeteners, strains under the burden. His pancreas, long since overwhelmed, struggles to manage the constant influx of sugars, however artificial. His kidneys, designed to filter and cleanse with the constant flow of pure water, labor under a ceaseless stream of synthetic chemicals. He is a living, breathing paradox, a testament to both the remarkable resilience of the human body and the terrifying power of an unyielding will. What does it mean to live this way? To define oneself by a singular, profound rejection? Is it freedom, a perverse liberation from the constraints of universal need? Or is it a form of slow, deliberate self-imprisonment, a cage built of carbonated sugar and unshakable conviction? The lines blur, the answers evade easy definition. Roberto Pedreira stands as a stark, almost mythical figure in the landscape of human eccentricities. Not a recluse, not a hermit, but a man who chose to bend the most fundamental law of nature to his own peculiar will. As the sun sets over Brazil, casting long, crimson shadows, one can almost hear the faint, insistent hiss of a bottle being opened. The comforting, familiar fizz, a dark, sweet whisper in the gathering dusk, a defiant refusal of the most essential truth, and the silent, unyielding river of life, water, flows on, unacknowledged, unchosen, a poignant, chilling reminder of what one man has willingly, stubbornly left behind. He endures, sustained by a chosen illusion, a testament to the dark, complex depths of human desire, and the extraordinary, sometimes terrifying strength of a mind determined to chart its own course, even towards a shadowed horizon.